Thursday night football kicks off week number 3 of this 2024 NFL regular season. For the prop perspective for TNF, it's SportsGrid's Tom Vecchio, live right here on this Thursday morning on the early line. Vecchio, as always, we appreciate the time. A busy day on the SportsGrid network for you, getting ready for a new week in the National Football League. We appreciate you being here to start off your Thursday on this TEL.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I am ready to get rolling. We have what I am anticipating to be a classic Thursday night game, Thursday night football game tonight. Probably not a whole lot of scoring, but there are still some very interesting angles we can attack. And dare I say, this game starts off punt, little same game parlay up at plus 246.
Oh, I love that, Vecchio.
I like it, coming out with the fire.
Yeah. I'm going to go bet that in a second when we take off the 3 box here. But, Vecchio, I love that look. And you mentioned how we might see a limited amount of scoring. 38.5 is the total. Sub 40 for a matchup that also features a 6.5-point spread in favor of New York. Vecchio, from just the handicapping, correlating the number perspective, how difficult is it for the Jets to cover as a near touchdown favorite at home when there's only expected to be about 38, 39 points?
Yeah, that's the difficult thing that we kind of have to key in on. It's like if they're expected to cover this spread, that means they're probably going to be scoring a decent amount of points, but we're probably not expecting a decent amount of points for this game overall. And frankly, I think the Patriots are the right side in this. And you know, I spoke to Kevin Walsh the other day. He said that the Pats might be one of the best ATS spread teams this year. And I think that's what they want to do. They want to kind of muck it up. They want to drag teams down and force them to play their style of game, which is not a wide open game. They're going to rely on defense and punts and running the ball. And that's what we're going to see tonight. So I think the Jets win. I am very, very hesitant to say that they will cover.
Yeah, we see what that game tempo ends up to be. But if we are looking at some of the quarterback props, then it's certainly with a 38.5, they're not going to be crazy high. And you take a look at Aaron Rodgers at 215.5, Jacoby Brissett at 163.5. What are the expectations for you, Tom, from the quarterback position tonight in the props market?
It is very, very modest. If you told me both of these quarterbacks hit the under or just barely touched the over on these props, I wouldn't be surprised at all. I think we are in for, again, a low-scoring game. One of the quarterbacks, probably Rodgers, may hit the over on his touchdown prop, but that may simply come due to the fact that they get to the red zone and they pops a few one in. It's not going to be like a 300-yard passing game and 3 touchdowns. It's going to be like that 2-10 game and 2 touchdowns. So I am very, very, I'm tempering my expectations for everyone in this game outside of Garrett Wilson, which we'll get to in a few minutes.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at the passing attack for New York, that might be the way to try to correlate it. We did see that Geno Smith threw for 327 yards in week number 2 against New England. So, Vecchio, if it's not a large aerial attack on this Thursday night in MetLife, do we focus on the ground? Let's start with New England. We know that's been the offensive game plan. Make Jacoby Brissett play clean football, take the ball out of his hands, and feed Rhamondre Stevenson. Does that happen for a 3rd straight week to start this year for the Pats?
I think so. Like you said, this is their game plan, and this is going to be their game plan every week. Even if they bring in Drake May, this is still going to be their game plan. Limit the quarterback exposure to limit his chances to make mistakes. They also don't have a very talented receiving core. Rhamondre is the guy to trust. So I like him specifically over 16.5 attempts tonight, sitting at plus 102. They have a 57.6 rush play percentage. That's the 5th highest in the league. That's good for 37.5 attempts per game. He has 25 and 21 over the first 2 weeks. The line at 16.5, I think, seems low because it's working with the game script. They're underdogs. They probably shouldn't be in a spot to run the ball too often. But ultimately, when they get the ball, they're going to be running it. So stick with Rhamondre. He's super consistent. Over 16.5, there's also a prop for him to a game special for him to rush for 25 plus in both halves. I think it's at plus 120. I think that seems pretty solid. We're not looking for too much there.
Let's see if we can find some fun here in the wide receiver tight end props. And I do want to focus first off on the Patriots because you never see numbers this low. Look at the wide receiver position here tonight. KJ Osborne, 17.5. Jalen Polk, 18.5. DeMario Douglas, 26.5. Those are the wide receiving options tonight for the Patriots. Now, Hunter Henry does have a 34.5. Is there any value in any market here at the wide receiver tight end position just from a Patriots perspective for you, Tom?
Yeah, it would be with Hunter Henry over 3.5 receptions. It's at plus 102. Like, he had all those yards last week. That's great. But, even though I expect them to run the ball a lot, if they do fall behind, they're going to have to pass it. And if the Jets bring that pressure, which they can be good at, it's going to be Hunter Henry. He has a 6.2 ADOT, average depth of target, so he's not getting super deep downfield. Jacoby Brissett could look to those easy passes. So over 3.5 at plus 102, I think is probably the safest option. We're not expecting a massive amount of yards. It's just like get the ball to him, try to move the chains, keep it simple.
149 passing yards for Jacoby Brissett last week against Seattle. 109 of them went to Hunter Henry, who had 8 grabs on 12 targets. Austin Hooper, the backup tight end, was the leading receiver for New England in week number 1's upset in Cincinnati. The most receiving yards for a wideout specifically for New England this year, Tyquan Thornton week 1 against the Bengals. He had 27 yards. Brissett has not broken through 150 passing yards yet this season. Aaron Rodgers, not more than 180. So, Tom, if we're looking at the New York Jets side of things, you mentioned Garrett Wilson. Where would you attack for those wide receivers for Gang Green?
Garrett Wilson is getting his first touchdown of the year at home, first home game of the year, plus 145, team high 29.3% target share. His red zone share is at 33.3%, second behind Lazard. It was tied. There was I don't know, stat change, scoring change. It wasn't officially a red zone target, but that's where I'm looking for him. Again, I'll say this time and time again, I'm of the belief quarterbacks should keep their star wide receivers happy, and that's what we need with Rodgers and Wilson. So again, a modest amount of scoring overall, but it's probably going to be coming from Garrett Wilson today.
All right, let's take a look at this game and wrap it up here, Tom. Your best props tonight on the market, what will they be here?
Yeah, so I'm going to be going with that Wilson TD. I also want to touch on the Rodgers under 31.5 passing attempts sitting at minus 130. He has 21 and 30 over the first 2 weeks. And ultimately, when we're looking at this game script, if Rodgers has to throw 35 or 40 times, that means something went wrong for the Jets, and that ultimately means the Pats are probably live on the money line. So when I'm trying to work these things together, Wilson scores, Rodgers manages the game well, get Braylon Allen, Breece Hall involved. They have a nice little bit of split, modest production overall, and they keep things simple. Because again, if Rodgers has to throw for 300 yards, you might as well just be taking the Pats on the money line at that point.
It's a really good point, Vecchio. It would go opposite the game plan, not only for New York, but also New England. If the Patriots are going to keep this game close within that 6.5-point spread, the game script has been completely off. If Aaron, who has not thrown the football more than 31 times in a game, or more than 30 times in a game so far this year, has to do so tonight. So let's look at these two teams and their season outlook overall. Of course, we know the expectation for the Jets: snap a 13-season playoff drought. For New England, the Patriots entered the year, Tom, with the lowest win total in the National Football League at only 4.5, already up to 6.5, and they're 1-0-1 against the spread. Who have you learned more about so far through the first 2 weeks of this season?
It's probably the Jets, and it comes down to, I spoke to Kevin about this on Tuesday, and it comes down to Braylon Allen. And I think he's a really interesting option because there's an unknown factor. And what I said to Kevin was Rodgers just may like Braylon Allen. And while he may not be a player that plays on a high percentage of snaps, if he's out there, it may be the goal to get him the ball. And that takes away usage from Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson, and Lazard is a longer shot in some of these games. So if the Jets are looking to spread out their offense, that may not be exactly what we anticipate coming into the season. We expect it to be a very, very high concentration for Wilson, Breece Hall, and then some of the other options. But Braylon Allen looks good, and he could be throwing a wrench into things a little bit.
Vecchio, quickly here, when's the last time you remember not only the lead running backs, but the backup running backs also having a rushing plus receiving yards number? Antonio Gibson and Braylon Allen both have those props tonight.
I mean, the closest comparison would be Gibbs and Montgomery in Detroit, although Montgomery's not a big receiving back. They have a good 1A, 1B kind of punch going there.
It is very interesting, to say the least. More prop perspective for Thursday Night Football with Tom Vecchio across the SportsGrid network on this Thursday. Tom, as always, we appreciate the time. Best bets for TNF next. We continue our deep dive and our breakdown into the start of Week 3 of this 2024 NFL season. Thursday Night Football at MetLife in East Rutherford, New Jersey. The Jets will play host to the New England Patriots. 2 consecutive divisional duels on the short week Thursday Night Football games to kick off 2024. DRS, the Jets, a 6.5-point favorite at home. The total 38.5. and a hook. How do you see these numbers as it comes to what the outcome of the game will be tonight on this Thursday?
From a side, I actually do lean towards the New England Patriots. Now, granted, it's usually home team or no team for me on Thursdays, but sometimes these are a little bit different, particularly earlier in the season where it's not a long travel plan. Like Boston heading down to, MetLife isn't that long. So it's not stuff like, 3 to 4 hour plane flight that you're going to have to take. So you lose basically a day of working out and getting some stuff in. I do like the under a little bit better at 38.5. Now, having said that, am I going to pull up tonight to the show and be like, I can't wait. I bet the under and the Jets. Probably not more from a prop perspective for me. But if you're asking the opinion, I probably would take the points with the New England Patriots, and also I would bet the under 38.5.
Yeah, DRS, I think it's hard to fault that kind of correlated handicapping strategy. And again, we have seen underdogs have their day the first 2 weeks of this year. Underdogs of 5 points or more, 9-1 against the spread, 5 outright victories. That includes what Atlanta did on Monday night. The Patriots part of a group that has been an underdog of 6 points or more. And in that group, they are a perfect 8-0 against the spread. New England won outright as the largest underdog of week number 1 in Cincinnati. Underdogs have been covering at a very high clip to start this season. Will it continue here into week 3 on the very first game? As you try to correlate the numbers, though, from the handicapping perspective, just think about it realistically and logistically. If the game is only going to feature 38 points, around that total of 38.5, or let's just say sub 40 to make it that even number of 40. How can the Jets cover as near a touchdown favorite? Now, it's under a touchdown. They could win 17-10. They could win 21-14. We could stay under that number, but you don't really have a ton to try to cover as a hefty favorite with a low total. And last year, Donnie, you heard Vecchio mention it in his conversations with Kevin. I think it's a very fair point to bring up based on where New England is and maybe even evaluated after 2 weeks. The Patriots entered this year with the lowest win total in the National Football League at only 4.5. They are 1-0-1 against the spread so far. Last year, as an underdog 12 times, just 4-7-1 ATS. But the way New England is playing to start this year, Jacoby Brissett's not going to throw it often. They are going to feed Rhamondre Stevenson and even Antonio Gibson on the ground. They are going to try to shorten games. They are going to establish the run. They're going to keep games closer just because of what the flow looks like.
Yes, and you're right about that. It's a good point you bring up because sometimes we'll take a look at two teams that are high flying. And what's always the moniker we use, Ben? No lead is safe. Even if you have 14 points, you got to keep your foot down here and make sure you put this football game away. Well, in the second half, if a team is up 14-10, putting the team away just means like handing the football off and saying like, oh, you only have 4 minutes to go 80 yards. There's no way you can do that because you operate like a snail, which technically New England does. That's the opportunities that you want to look at tonight where if you are the Jets, you don't feel the need. Like, let's just say, Ben, again, you're up 3 points, right? Final drive of the game for you, 6 minutes to go. Your objective, you would love to score a touchdown. But what are you probably going to do? Let's get to the red zone. Let's play comfortable. If we score a touchdown, great. If not, let's make sure we get that field goal and force the New England Patriots to go the length of the field. So let's just say it's 16-10 at that point. What are the odds that if you only scored one touchdown right in that game, that with 2 minutes to go, you're going to be able to go 80 yards the length of the field with Jacoby Brissett and those wide receivers? I don't think that's going to happen. So I just think from an aggressiveness point, yes, the Jets want to score. Of course they want to score points. They'd love to score 35 points. We have to understand, hey, guys, we can win this game if we just get to 20 points, which means New England's probably not going to get shut out and they'll be in the ball game. But the question is going to be, can you actually get that drive when you need it at the end of the game, whether it's to stay from within double digits from 10 to 7 points or score a touchdown late, even if it doesn't mean anything, you have the ability to move the football. I don't know if New England has the ability to do that. So I do think it's going to be a closer game. And the tempo, I just don't think it's going to be there tonight.
And the Patriots really haven't played from behind this year. They led early in Cincinnati, dictated the pace. It was back and forth, but they had an early lead in the opening half last week in their home debut against Seattle. They got to dictate the pace. So let's get to the props. Jacoby Brissett has not been tasked this year with having to air it out to throw for 250, 275. In fact, he hasn't thrown for more than 150 so far this season. His passing yards prop tonight reflects that. For Aaron Rodgers, his number is 212 and a hook, but he hasn't thrown for more than 180 so far this year, just 30 attempts at its most through 2 games, and that was last week in Tennessee. What do you expect the quarterback play to look like on this Thursday?
Non-explosive, and that's the terminology I'm going to use. Like Jacoby, 163 yards as a professional football player, as a quarterback, is ridiculous. You should be approaching that like by halftime, theoretically, not the entire game. And also for a game that you're supposed to be losing, you would think that if he has, 100 yards at the half, which isn't that great, he should easily hit that number because you have to be throwing in the fourth quarter. But let's just line those passing numbers up and forget about the actual yardage. Look at the touchdowns, 1.5. Let's just say the numbers were even, right? Both of those bets at a plus 100. What would you rather take? Aaron Rodgers to throw 2 or Jacoby Brissett to throw 1? I'd actually still go with Aaron Rodgers. Even again, he could throw 1 less touchdown Brissett at the same plus 100 price. I still don't trust that offense to move the football with those wide receivers. I just don't.
Over 1.5 for Aaron Rodgers is plus 120. He did throw 2 last week, each to a running back, Breece Hall and Braylon Allen. As you look at some other props, DRS, for Thursday Night Football, what other areas will you have pregame as you sweat it out on NFL football in-game live game day throughout the game?
It's a really tough one because I see the numbers on the running backs for both sides, the starters. Rhamondre Stevenson, you're going to put him in the mid-60s. What is their game plan? Keep it close, run the football. You figure, Ben, he's going to get close to 20 touchdowns, which I don't care how bad your offensive line is or how bad your defense is. If you're going to give me, let's just say, 18 carries, I better be getting 65 yards to cash that ticket. But also from the other side, I know it's really expensive. Like Breece Hall's a minus 170. He's going to get the first looks in the red zone. He has the chance to catch a pass out of the backfield. But a minus 170 with a total of 38.5, it doesn't even compute in my mind. These numbers are wacky tonight. We're going to have to take the afternoon to really analyze what makes sense tonight.
Garrett Wilson has yet to find the end zone this year. Love Vecchio's look at plus 145. By the way, to get 2 punts to start the night for both teams, plus 238. DRS, I'll miss you. Have a great weekend. Have a great time tonight, and enjoy the money line. More of the early line up next.